The draft horse world is a small, connected family. Anyone who has been to a show and seen these great beasts in action can't help but fall in love with it. But what are some things that go on behind the scenes that bring these fantastic shows to life? Tim and Brittany Sparrow love to talk horses and are on the podcast today to share the highs and lows from the 2024 draft horse season and some exciting things to look forward to in 2025. Hello and welcome to Young Living's podcast, The Wild Drop. My name is Jacob Young, your host. Young Living is the world leader in producing and distributing premium essential oils, and this podcast will provide you with drops of information about Young Living, including stories, history, product information, lots of little fun facts, and even more. Well, Brittany and Tim, we're so happy to have you back in the podcast room once again. It's been another crazy year for the team. Y'all did amazing this year. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend this year with the 10-year anniversary in Malaysia, but I was watching from afar, and it was amazing to see you guys just do what you do so well, just represent Young Living in such a proud and profound way, the way that my dad would have wanted. And same thing as last year, that half-point difference. So the curse of the half point, but
True.
But it would be awesome if you guys kind of walk through the year, try and share a little bit about some of the challenges, the highlights, and then I think, each day of the championships, and then goals and future plans for next year.
Yeah, so we started out per usual. It's not a long time. We had the finals last year, and we go right into our fall festival. We kind of recap that last year, but then we do have a little downtime, so we really start the year roughly in January, March, and that's exciting just because there are getting to be more shows out in the West. Like you said, that was your dad's goal too, was to bring more shows out here to the West so we could highlight what the draft horses brought to this country. So we've actually found the Arizona shows have been some of our favorites, just also to get out of the cold of the winter in March. So we had a good run down there. We kind of got stuck in the second position, I felt like, through the winter. And it was like, okay, it just makes you hungrier for things. So then you kind of have to sit with it. And we started out in May. We hit a show in Colorado and then trekked east. And I don't know, what would you summarize the summer?
Well, we had a transition to using some new horses. And, the beginning of the summer was a little bit of a transition, getting them to perform to the level we expected and that we knew they were capable of. It just took a little bit of time, but by the end of July, we had a new lead horse in there, and by that time, things started to click, and he really drove well all the way through August and then into the finals.
Fantastic. So, when it comes to training these horses and driving them, especially when they're new horses that you're not accustomed to or that any of the other horses are accustomed to, can you kind of give me a short overview of what that training looks like?
Probably the biggest component of that is time. Them getting to know the expectation, how to set them up to be successful, like the right bit, the right check bit, where they need to be bit with to go with the horse we're driving them with. That's probably the biggest thing is time and repetition. The new lead horse, we had him for close to 2 years, but we'd always use him as a spare and use him in some we get him in there at some shows, but in the big moments, we always had the other lead horse in there. But now that he had to step in there, like I said, just a little bit of time knowing how he'd respond to situations. Different rings are different. We show in several outdoor rings, but every ring is a little different size-wise and the surrounding things that they see or hear. Like I said, some horses, like for instance, our older lead horse, some shows we plug his ears, so he just doesn't hear everything quite as well.
Helps him focus.
Yeah, helps him stay focused, and they sense a lot. Horses' senses are pretty keen, especially in some are just they hear too much and it just kind of gets them too wound up. And so, like I said, the biggest thing is time, Jacob, and driving them with, work. We'll work like we get a new horse. A lot of times they're maybe working with some of the other younger new horses or a younger horse we raised, and because you work with them a little differently probably than you do the more seasoned horses. And most of the time, the more seasoned horses, you're just maintaining what they're getting them into shape, keeping them legged up. Once in a while you need to change it a bit or whatever, but most of the time when they're doing this, we need maybe they're not as aggressive. Maybe we can wrap their curb chain or put a little softer bit in or a bigger diameter bit, which is not as aggressive. Or, well, they're being a little extra aggressive. So they need a little bit different bit in them. And sometimes, too, it's not necessarily getting harsher. It's knowing maybe they're a bar sore or whatever. Maybe sometimes you need to wrap their bar. Sometimes some horses respond, like if something gets, they ate something or for some reason their bar gets sore in their mouth where the bit rests and where you have the contact with them in their mouth, you benefit better from wrapping the bit because it takes that pressure off. Some horses, when they don't back out of pain, they go into it.
Yeah.
So
interesting. Yeah, I definitely can understand most of what you're talking about. I know with my horse specifically, Draco, he's the one that I joust on. He has such a cute sense for where he is and what he's doing. So like when we're practicing, he's extremely lazy. Like knows that we're only practicing so it doesn't matter. And so I usually have to wear spurs with him so he'll listen just a little bit better. Whereas with a show, I don't have to wear spurs at all because he knows, oh, this is where I get to show off. This is what I get to do. And he knows when the show's about to come to the end, we do our 3 passes. And so he gets slower towards the end, too. So it's funny. They truly know like what they're doing. They love what they're doing as well. So it's awesome to see that. These shows, I know not a lot of people kind of understand how you lead up and earn your placement for the championships. So obviously you have to qualify for the championships. And it'd be great if you kind of explained, why you go to so many shows, the point system that tallies up, and then what allows you to qualify for the championships.
Yeah, so the point season actually lasts from Labor Day to Labor Day, because kind of the first year it's just how it's always been set up because how the show season works. There's going to be more shows year round, but you used to be primarily all through the summer mostly. You'd start in end of June and go through till October, and there's a few shows in November, and then you pretty much wouldn't be showing through the winter. But now there's going to be, like I said, there's 2 shows in Colorado in January, and there's possibly going to be 3 shows in Arizona in March. So it's Labor Day to Labor Day. So that's your calendar year to accrue points. But then the way the schedules work, the way the finals have fallen, our first show for this year, 2024 and 2025 show season, started at our show, Young Living Fall Festival, and there was 17 6-horse hitches, and so you get a point for every hitch you beat. So your first place and there's 17 hitches, you get 17 points. Your second, you get 16 points. And you count yourself.
Okay. So it's your placement minus the teams, essentially. And that's your total point value.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So leading up to the championships, once you know that you've qualified and you have the points, I know some people, we were talking about this, how they'll either do one show right before to get those last points in, or they'll, kind of bypass that show and they'll just go straight to the championships. What's your guys' kind of plan throughout the years? I know you guys usually skip that one show right before the championship so that the horses kind of recover and recoup so they're in their best shape, top form shape as well. And then that last show that you do leading up to the championships, what do those days look like? What did the days through the championship look like? What's going through your head at that time?
I would say definitely that's been our strategy all year, is that we try to set ourselves up for point-wise and success, that towards the end of the show season, those last weeks in August, last weeks in September, you can dictate your fate a little bit more. You can be saying, this horse is going because we need to tweak these last little things, or no, this horse needs to rest. So that's really how we played it this year. We were fortunate enough to be able to take basically a pretty young group to the last show and rest 5 of the 6 starters. And we felt that really helped us. When you have to push and ask so much, there's just another whole nother level once you get to the final. So we felt good in doing that. And then I feel like we always hook at home and do some practice rounds. And there's usually a day that you hook and you look at each other and we're like, What are we doing? How did this all fall apart? Why, what is going on? And I feel like it's always on the Monday after the weekend, and we should just be expecting it. Usually they just have that extra energy. You're hitting the fall, and I feel like that crisp mornings just make them a little more frisky and everything.
A little more hoppy.
Plus, I feel like they read you. They just know, like, wait, things are just changing here. Everybody's just a little more on edge because you try not to be, and I feel like you really articulated that a lot this summer, that you're like, I'm trying to focus on this just being another show and not press, so that you don't beat yourself.
Yeah.
And so those were then the next subsequent hooks. I'm like, okay, this hitch, we could go to the finals today, and that's really where you want to end. You just want to feel like you have that confidence. And we had a good trek over to the finals. The year before, I think we pulled in at midnight because of tire issues. We did not have that this year. Knock on wood, we had a really good mechanical run and things. So I just felt like we went in with all the prior preparation that we could. We had done everything. So I feel like almost being there, we were more relaxed, because at that point you've done everything you can. There's nothing more to do. The chips are going to fall, and it's going to happen the way it's supposed to. So that felt like relief. I don't know. Or just that we set ourselves up.
That's the key. Is maybe in years past you do press a little bit that time of year, because you want to be performing at your best instead of taking it. It isn't another show, but it is another show. Just another show. So I said, we know how to get these guys ready to go for any show. So just kind of did the prep work leading up to, horses have a sense of you. I mean, so the difference between riding and driving horse. Riding horse, you have several points of contact. You have your reins with your bit. You have your legs, your leg pressure. You're sitting on top of them, your weight. With driving, a 6-horse hitch, especially the wheel team, you're closer to them. But pretty much your point of contact is your lines and your voice and your demeanor. Like the horses have, like I said, they have great senses, and if you're a little on edge, they have a sense for that. We had, just like the year before, we had a 1st and 2 seconds, and so the last 2 years we've been right there where we needed to be. So it's hard to be disappointed about it. We did, like Britt said, we did everything we could. And we felt like we set ourselves up for success, and the horses didn't disappoint us.
Yeah. I think it also comes down to the judges, too.
Mm-hmm.
All the years that I've been, I feel like the judges have done a phenomenal job. But, yeah, it's interesting to see how the judges judge, because each judge, kind of like what you were saying, they have kind of their preferences and what they like and what they don't like, and that varies from year to year as well. And so I think it's always interesting, because you have the baseline of like how most judges judge, and then there's like those really nitpicky things that one judge will pick over the other judges and stuff. When it comes to that baseline point system, can you kind of explain what the judges are looking for and how they point, tally and point that? Because I remember the very first year that I went, I didn't understand what they were looking for. But just looking at them, I was like, oh, that team did really good. And then when it came to lining them up, they actually didn't do that well. And I was like, well, they look good. So I think it'd be great if you kind of shared like how that point system works, what the judges look for.
So as a judge, most of the time, how I look at it when I judge, you want to judge on the positive. So, when a hitch comes into the ring, you want them to be, as a unit, each team paired up well, headsets together, traveling together, not one horse behind or in front of the other, and then the overall appearance of the hitch. You want your lead team to be smaller, more athletic, and then your swing team, the middle team, bigger, and stair step up to the wheel team. Be your biggest and most powerful horses. So you're looking for them to work together, teamwork, uniformity, and cleanliness is a part of it. At that level, by the time at the finals at that level, everybody's got things clean up. Horses, tack, wagon, and overall too, it's like the impression. Like I like to hit the ring and like the judge would be like, "Wow, they look good today," because that's your overall. Most of the time, that's that's the best thing you can do is your first impression, that first way of the ring, and then you reverse. And if you have a really good first way of the ring, your second way of the ring, you just do not mess it up. Because they already kind of, most of the time, most judges, unless something, but you have a horse break or gets shies at something and he kind of pulls you in, takes you off the rail. Most of the time they have a pretty good idea, like, hey, they're here to play today, and they look really good. Most of the time they're not swayed too much they're swayed more at the beginning than at the end. At the end they're just making sure they didn't miss something. Like you see a horse comes in there, and it's happened to everybody. They stepped on something or took a funny step. Everything was fine, and then you come in the ring and you're like, that horse isn't. He's a little sore, and that's you want your horses. We call it sound, which is healthy. Like they're not sore. They're not favoring a leg here or there in the front or the back, and it's overall. They only as a judge, you probably watching a hitch 30 seconds. You make your decision off of 30 seconds of watching a hitch when you really think about it. Like, and it's probably a little bit more than that, but like
moments at a time, because the hitch is going by, and then you have to look at the next one. So probably it is.
It's usually only a 5-second pass.
Yep.
And then I also wanted to kind of just clarify with everybody listening that what Tim means by the second pass is a reverse.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So they'll go counterclockwise. Well, I guess it depends on the arena, but I know at the finals you enter.
We always start and go counterclockwise.
You always start and go counterclockwise, and then reverse and do a figure eight and go clockwise the other way, and then pull in and back up. So. Yeah, that's what I realize is, as a judge, that has to be so difficult, because you have at the finals it's usually the 3 to 4 teams, and you're looking, and it's like, I think 5 whole seconds on one side, and then you're going to the next team, and then you're swapping and looking at that. So 30 whole seconds for I feel like what feels like close to 10 to 20 minutes of driving per team. So that's really tricky.
I was just gonna say to that point, probably. That was a change in our strategy 3 or 4 years ago, because we actually started out, we would typically make the right side our strong side, because mentally we thought, well, a judge surely wants to see you finish strong. So yes, go in, and they're a little bouncy or this or that in the beginning. But then by that second way, if you can just finish strong, where another hitch may be getting a little tired and things. And like I said, it's probably been about 3 or 4 years ago, and we kind of actually swapped the whole side of the hitch, and we're like, I think that we're hurting ourselves by that, because I feel like the judge, just as Tim articulated, that they're really making that first impression decision. And then the second way, you may only sometimes have a lap and a half or two, and you're just trying not to mess up that decision.
Yeah.
So, like one person said to us once, the second way of the ring, it isn't necessarily going to win it, but you don't want to lose it. So we really changed our strategy when we did that, and we felt like we had even more success by making the left side the strong side for us.
Yeah, the days that the drives that get me the most nervous and excited at the exact same time is the redrives. And it's always fun because you kind of know like where you are placement-wise for that day depending on who you are with the redrive. And so what the redrives are, which I'll quickly explain, is you go in, you're with your 4 teams or whatever, and then obviously the judges must have seen something that was very close between you and one other team, and they want you to redrive the arena again to really figure out, okay, who gets that one last final point for the day.
The head-to-head.
The head-to-head,
most
essentially.
Of the time, we have their heats. I'm just expounding on what you brought up, Jacob, that have the heats and then the redrive. You might have, you didn't see these 2 hitches compare to each other at the same time, and that helps your decision a lot. Sometimes you think, oh, they're pretty close, and then you put them in next to each other, and you're like, nope, there's a lot of a big gap between them. Or you think, oh, this one hitch was a lot better, and then they get in the redrive and together, and you're like, no, this hitch is better today. So
yeah, and the redrive's hard because the horses have already exerted so much of their energy and force for that main drive, right? And so kind of like what you were saying, what's so amazing about what I always see with our horses and compared to other people's horses is like they know they're going back in. And so they're not as tired as compared to some of the other horses I see during the redrive. They're like, oh, we get a show again. Let's do this.
Sure.
Let's do this. Whereas when they're in the back kind of getting ready, they're like, oh, yeah, we're just back here. And it goes back to that sense thing with the horses. And that's what is so, I think just with Percherons in particular, they are very showy. They're very proud. They're very stout. Like they know they're here to perform. They know they're here to show, and they know everyone's watching them. And just to see them perk up as soon as they hit that rail going into the arena, it is just a complete transformation of a horse. And then they go back to the stalls, and they're all nice and happy and sleepy and just happy to be pet. And
Yeah.
it's just great to see.
I think that's what makes them so wonderful, especially the group that we have. I feel like that's what makes a great horse. If they can go and perform and do their job, but how are they in the barn? Like their barn mares, how are they they're just a kind horse to be around, because they're not honestly all made that way. Some horses just simply want to do their job. They don't like to be pet. They don't like the interaction. This is what I do. Or like you said, sometimes when they're just so calm, but there's no personality. They have a lot of personality,
Yes.
every single one of them.
Each one of them has their own personality. And you also have, your children around them and,
Yep.
and kids that are even younger than them. And they truly are gentle giants, which is just amazing. So we talked about the 2024 season, which was every season is just a grand and amazing season. Honestly, like for me, I don't really care about placement. Like obviously world champions, it's awesome and everything, but just to see you guys perform the horses and what my dad wanted and just the representation of Young Living and your team, you guys always do a phenomenal job. And it's a great time to be there. The world finals, great people, great crowd, great horses, like just a great scenery all around. Going into 2025, you guys have some pretty exciting stuff lined up, and I'm most excited about it too, and maybe I might have to participate myself. So I'd love to kind of hear what your guys' plans for 2025 is, and this new program that you have kind of in the works.
Yeah, so for 2025, we just always hear time and time again, people like, gosh, that's on my bucket list. That's on my bucket list to learn how to drive. And to be honest, in our industry, there really has been a kind of gap in that instruction for some time. So we've decided that we're going to open up and have a Young Living driving school for 2025, tentatively looking at July, August months. And so people can come out and they can do a hands-on driving school. This isn't going to be going to school and learning in a book and theoretically, and maybe by the end of it, you'll get to hold the lines. No, we really want you to be out there from day one, and we'll tailor it to what individuals have as far as an experience level. Maybe you really want to come and improve on your multiple skills. You already drove a team before, but I've always dreamed of driving a 4. Let's just say it is on my bucket list, and you might feel like you're just holding on to the lines, but I just want to sit behind a 6-horse hitch. You've seen it. There's just something exhilarating about it. Or this is the first time. You have never drove a horse a day in your life, and you don't even know. Basically, whoa means stop. We can help with that too. So yeah, we really want to teach the next generation. And because for us, like I said, that's just something that we were blessed with, to be born into families that had draft horses, but not everybody has that opportunity. So we'd like to open it up to anyone.
And it's not just for the youth; it's for young, young and old. I mean, it might be something that someone's always wanted to do.
Yep.
And now they have the time and resources to maybe pursue something. So our thought is to try and make it so it's what the student would like. Would they want to come for two days, or they want to come for 5 days, or they want to focus on, they've never drove a horse before, they just want to learn how to drive a car in a team, or they have drove horses and they would like to fine-tune their skills and drive a 6, 4 or 6s, unicorns. Like Britt said, it'd be hands-on. My goal would be for people to come and get enough driving that their hands hurt.
Yeah.
From driving, just because, they've gotten that much time behind the horses driving. So
Yeah, no, I think this is absolutely amazing, because when I think about something like that, where I would love to learn how to drive, or at least understand all the techniques and all the know-hows of how to drive, right? How do you even start, or where do you even start with that? Like, I don't believe like any other school like that exists. It's usually like you're born into it or you have some type of connection into the industry or something like that. But to give people this opportunity where they may never had that opportunity before, or there's not really an introductory or a gateway to that, I think this is absolutely fabulous. And the thing that is so amazing and kind of sad on the way is like the draft horse world as a whole with driving is actually very small, and it's all within family, right? And so to be able to bring an possible influx of people and to bring more recognition into it, I think is going to be absolutely fantastic and amazing. And the gears in my brain are already turning, but you're talking about the Young Living Driving University, and this isn't what it's called or anything, but future plans of how this could expand and grow. And you have so and so driver who graduated from the Young Living Driving University, done by Tim and Brittany Sparrow. And I think it's going to be truly amazing because I know there's a lot of people that want to. There's in a way a lot of demand for it, and obviously you're able to provide Rylan with that as well. He is so much an identical 1-to-1 figure of you. It's amazing to see when he goes in and shows for his kart class just all the similarities. I mean, just literally
all their mannerisms.
Perfect picture. Yeah, just a mirror of that. Well, that's super exciting. When that does get finalized and everything, where can people go to get more information and to learn about that?
So we have the Facebook page, the Percheron, the Young Living Percherons Mona, Utah is the Facebook page. And then we also have the Young Living events page that you connect through youngliving.com. You go to farms and events. And so we're going to list it there as well.
Fantastic. Well, when we get closer and details are finalized, we'll definitely be making some more announcements about that. Maybe we'll do another podcast episode. And for those of you that are, listening on YouTube, we'll have those links in the description down below. For those of you on Spotify, come on over. YouTube isn't too bad. But yeah, that's super, super exciting. So, well, besides the driving school, obviously, you have 2025 coming up. What's your kind of, now that there's starting to be more shows on the West, what is your schedule looking like for 2025? What's the plan for 2025 besides the driving school? How are you feeling for 2025?
So, like Brittany mentioned, probably we're thinking the driving schools in July and August. And there's going to be more shows in the West. So I think this year we're going to try and stick more to staying out West here. And we're also probably going to do maybe, like last year we did the 4th of July parade in Provo. Maybe do a couple more, like the Days of 47 parade. We had the Young Living Fall Festival, and there was a show in St. George, Utah, the following weekend. And then we have the Big Thunder Draft Horse Show in Loveland, Colorado. Denver, the next weekend is the National Western Stock Show in Denver. And then right at the beginning of March, it's down in Queen Creek, Arizona. It'll be our first show in Arizona, then the following weekend in Buckeye, Arizona, and then possibly 2 weeks after that, will be in Scottsdale, Arizona. There's a big horse show there, I think mostly Arabs, that goes on towards the end of March. Then there's another show in Grand Junction. Grand Junction, Colorado will be the weekend before Memorial Day weekend. And then we're potentially looking at having another draft horse show Memorial Day weekend at the farm in Mona.
Oh, that would be fantastic. That's
so
kind of I'm hearing about that.
In association with like a little bit more, probably put on more by the Western States Classic Show Committee, but providing the facility and what we can do to help facilitate another show. And then there's a Deer Lodge, Montana in June, and then July and August right now, like I said, we'll be doing a couple parades. So that's why we're looking at doing it kind of then with the driving schools, and maybe potentially we'll see where we're at with points. Maybe potentially we could maybe go back to the Brit Draft Horse Show over Labor Day weekend, which is the cutoff for the points, and just give us that little nudge if we can to stay in the top 5 to make the finals again this year.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you list all these shows, and obviously you have so much going on. So for those of you listening, if you want to go and watch, the Young Living Draft Horse team and Tim and Brittany, and come down and say hi. Brittany
absolutely.
Always sets up this beautiful booth at every single show that's just so amazing. They list all the dates and the schedules on the Facebook page,
yes,
which we'll have listed. So if you're in the area, stop by, say hi, just to come watch these beautiful, amazing horses and teams perform and do what they do. It's unlike anything else. There's really nothing like it. So, yeah, come down and support and say hi and whatnot. And I'm super excited for 2025 and you guys, especially for the driving school. And I'm glad you're going to be doing more kind of on the West Coast, because I know those drives all the way out to the east and back are absolutely brutal. And all I can think is, wow, that's a lot of driving. So to kind of finish it up, I would love it if you could share top 3 things behind the scenes that most people don't see or realize. Does that come down to like the time of prep work and cleaning halters? Does that come down to like the driving, or what are some things that people just probably don't realize or don't see that are behind the scenes?
Well, probably you alluded to it, Jacob. Probably the prep work, not only at the show but at home. So right now, the show hitch has actually, they're kind of in the middle of probably their longest stretch of downtime. We got done showing in the beginning of October, and they're close to 6 weeks off. We'll start in about 2 weeks. We'll start driving them again, and but we just don't show till January. So, we're starting about 8 weeks out before our first show, at minimum, and that's probably one of the things that most people don't realize. It takes a lot of time, even the mature horses, to get them back into shape and back into the routine. But some of them take to it pretty quick. But a lot of the young ones, like I said, it's repetition, it's time, and it's not necessarily driving every day. It's we generally drive them about 3 days a week. But like the younger ones, we might sprinkle in doing some long lining. It's more like lunging them, but we still drive, have contact on both sides of their mouth just with a lunge line. But we work more on their headset and sometimes how they travel. Like we might put shackles on, like, so it's like a chain, just like you put on their feet, and so it's a little bit of weight. But you might put them on the front feet, and it causes them to. We want a little more action out of this horse. Animation.
So it causes them to pick their front feet.
So it picks their feet up higher because they think they're trying to get out of it. They think if they pick it up higher, their natural inclination is they're gonna get out of the chain.
Yeah.
But you're making that muscle memory.
But you're kind of making the muscle memory, and like them to kind of be like, whoa, I can do this, or sometimes they put them on the hind feet for a horse that he kind of has the front energy and using a lot of the animation in front, but he's not really. We call it like sitting down, like using their hindquarters and sitting back on their hindquarters and staying back on that. Yeah. So they have the big front end and the animation too. So, and then another thing and at the show is the prep work. Like the show might start at 1 o'clock. Well, most of the time we're at the barn at 6 o'clock. Feeding, cleaning stalls, but then they all need washed, groomed. We generally wrap their legs, kind of help their. So when it's time to perform, they're kind of already warmed up. They're to help them stay limber and help with any inflammation. They're just like athletes. There gets to be inflammation, especially when they're standing on a big horse. They're in a stall, and we take them out and exercise them, walk them just to kind of get them out and move them. So that's 7 hours of prep before we start even leading ahead to start showing, and then probably I would say the thing, like from the outside looking in, probably 95% of the people in the draft horse world, I'm a fierce competitor. I want to, you always want to be first, right? That's always what your goal is. That doesn't always happen because you're working with animals. But the people we're fierce as competitors with, if they come to me in the barn and say, hey, I forgot some hoof black, which is what we use to paint their feet so they're black and they're shiny at the show, or they had a horse lose a shoe and they need some nails or some hoof filler, I'll help them out. I'd rather beat them when they're at their best or get beat by them when they're at their best than not. And I would say that's probably, from the outside looking in, a lot of people probably wouldn't realize, because we know people from, I don't think there's this state in the nation that I don't know somebody that doesn't have a draft horse in, we know, and it's kind of a smaller, tight-knit group, and and I think that's a lot of people's, I'm not going to not give you something so I can beat you. No, I'd rather you have everything you need so I can beat you with your best. So that's kind of the way I look at it, and I think 95% of people do too.
Yeah, it's amazing to see the community of the draft horse team, how everybody just has the utmost respect for everybody, and just Yeah, you guys are all friends at the end of the day. You know, every single World Finals, you know, whoever wins, you're usually chasing them down to throw them in an ice bath or whatever it is. You know, just a bunch of kids playing on the playing ground, and you have all the kids from the parents that are there that are, you know, playing in the big open arena right there. It's just amazing to see that there's no bad blood or grudges or bad attitudes towards anybody. Like, everybody is so friendly, everybody knows everybody, everybody's so willing to help. It's just amazing to see. You don't see that in a lot of industries where there's a lot of tight competition like that. And like, I don't see any, like when you look at sports, there's always trash talking or you're trying to do something to agitate the other team. I have never seen that in the draft horse world. And like, there's no espionage where it's like,
Right.
oh, what is that team doing? Or what's that team doing? That kind of thing. Never have ever seen that in the draft horse world. So it's just amazing to see that. Well, Tim, Brittany, thank you so much for your time coming on, sharing everything draft horse. I know there's so many people in and outside of Young Living that absolutely just love what you guys do with the Young Living team. We get so many praises and acclamations about you guys and your team and everything that you do, and the horses. And like you said, they're athletes and they are pampered. Let me tell you, those horses are pampered. They really are. But yes, once again, thank you both so much. Looking so forward to the 2025 season and all the seasons ahead as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jacob. Thanks for all your support.
And to you, the listeners, thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Wild Drop. Remember, you can listen on iTunes, Spotify, on YouTube, and of course, our website at www.youngliving.com. Don't forget to oil up Young Living family. This is Jacob Young, dropping out. Take care.